this is Peggy for Cropstop.com, and tonight I want to show you another way that you can use your new Cuttlebug All-in-One embossing plates. We're going to do some letterpress. I'm going to be using the Celebrate one tonight, and if you haven't seen these already, let me just quickly show you what it is. You're going to get this all-in-one embossing plate, and this is where your little, I call these little plates too, but they go inside of this folder. And I have another video out there, Cropstop, so check that out. And then you can buy all different kinds. I think there's like, I want to say 8 different ones right now of the actual embossing kits. And in there, there's 10 different, did you catch that? 10 different embossing plates, 10 different ideas. You can mix and match, put it all over that little green plate down there, and you'll have a just great time. But what I want to show you tonight is a really cool technique that I learned that I love to share. Let me move a couple things here. Look at this. Can the camera come real close to those cupcakes? Can you believe that? I did it with my all-in-one, and I used distressed ink on that one. Isn't that cool? It's got a tiny bit of emboss, but mostly it's just the shape there. This one, I did the same technique, but I used Memento inks. This I used orange. For my technique tonight, I'm going to use the Tangelo, just because I need an orange card. And then you can even emboss with embossing powders. So there's another way to do that. Can you see that shining on there? So let me clear some things off and let's get started learning how to do this. Now the first technique I'm going to use is the ink. I'm going to use Memento ink, and it is so simple. You're just going to be so impressed. I'm going ahead and I took the big embossing plate out, and there's little nibs on the back, and that's what's going to slide into the holes here so that your plate will be nice and solid. So I just kind of move it around. It's in there. And I close it just to make sure that it's totally clipped in there. I'm going to take my ink pad and I'm going to do ink pad right on there. And again, this is Memento ink. You can use your pigment inks. Now if you use your pigment ink, remember to either heat set it or let it sit for a while and dry, because it will smear. Now, it's inside of here. Let me bring the Cuttlebug in a little closer. Remember, if you looked at the other video, I suggested highly that you use the 2 large plates because you won't get your little creases on there. This one you might be able to get away with a smaller one only because I'm not doing the whole piece of paper. The next thing you're going to do is line those up, and then on your Cuttlebug plate is a big purple arrow. That's the way you want to go in first into your Cuttlebug. So let me line them up here. Now that didn't feel very tight to me, so I'm going to pull a little trick here. And I'm just going to add some little shims. And normally I would put those underneath, but for time's sake, I'm just putting them right in there. Oh, that feels better. I think I'll get a little bit better. Yeah, that's better. Oops. Let me move my little Cuttlebug over here. And let's open it up and see what we got. Woohoo! Would you look at that? Isn't that awesome? There's the front of your card. All you'd have to do is maybe stick a hunk of ribbon on there, your little sentiment, and voila, you have a card. Before I get going here, you want to go ahead and dry off, wipe off all your ink off your plate. And normally if I was downstairs, I'd run this under the sink just to make sure I got it all off of the crevices, or use a baby wipe and get it out of there. But for time's sake, we're just going to do this. So my next one might have a tinge of orange to it, but you know what, it's okay. Now, okay, so we used the Memento ink. Now wait till you see what I'm going to do. I'm even going to use some distress inks. You know I love distress inks. I use them all the time. That's how I got that look. And it is quite a bit different if you look. It's a little more, this could be more for a guy, I think, and this is more for a kid. But anyway, that's my opinion. So, you do the same exact technique. Put that put that ink pad right against there so you get some good ink to paper when you fold it together. Let's close that up. And I just wanted to show you that you could use different inks. You're going to use the same exact technique. This time I think I'll stick my little shims inside. And let's bring the Cuttlebug back in here. And remember that purple arrow goes in first. There we go. Take all that off of there. Turn her around. Let's see what we got. Voila. Isn't that cool? Now because I didn't ink all the way to the top, I didn't get it to the top, and it kind of smudged down here when I just picked it up, so you know me. I'll just trim that out, mat it on a piece of the blue cardstock to match that, and I'll call it a card. So there's technique number 2. Let me wipe this off and we'll do another one. This time I'm going to be using Tim Holtz Distress Ink Embossing Ink. I don't think I have all that color out of there, but that's all right. I'm not going to get too excitable right now. I'll wash it real good when I get downstairs. And what I do with mine is I actually take a soft toothbrush. Don't get the real heavy-duty hard ones. Just get a soft one. And that kind of gets in between there. Okay, so this time I'm going to use Distress Embossing Ink. And this is Tim Holtz. Now I would recommend highly, and we have these things at Crop Stop. Everything that I'm using you can get at Crop Stop. When you buy this embossing, in fact, any time that you can get a re-inker for an ink pad, try and do that. Again, I'm using the embossing ink. I'm going to do the same technique. Just ink it up good. Now with this, you want to make sure that you do get all of it, because wherever you don't get it, you're not going to be able to heat set it and be able to do the next little technique. So I really, maybe this is why I use so much of it, because I don't want to have to throw my hunk of paper away. You know I don't throw away anything. Alright, we're going to do exactly the same technique. Down we go. And let's see, we're going to put our little shims in there. I'm not sure why I'm having to use those shims all of a sudden. I don't think I used them the other day, but you never know. It all depends on how Cuttlebug's feeling. Some days she feels good, and some days she wants a lot of attention. So, we'll stick her in there. Get that inside. Now on this one, because I want to make sure I get all of that embossing ink on my paper, I actually did run it through a couple times. I don't know if it makes a difference, but to me it made a difference, so I did it. Alright, now I'm going to do the same thing. Take these off, lift it up, take that out. Now I know on the camera you probably can't see all of that on there, but it is there. Then I'm going to take a piece of scratch paper and put underneath it here. And I have Ranger's Super Fine Detail Embossing Powder. And I'm just going to smear it all over. Now, you're saying, holy Toledo, you don't need to use all that. Well, I put a lot on there because I don't want to miss anything. And then I just put it back in my jar. I've had this jar a long time. So, just cover it up with your powder. Make sure it's all covered. Tap her off, like so. Lay that aside. I'm going to go ahead and put my embossing powder back in, so we don't blow it all over the place, because I'm going to heat set this now. There we go. So I always close it up, because, you know, when I very first started stamping years ago, one time I didn't do that. I had embossing powder everywhere. So I've learned my lesson. Alright, let me bring this card back in. And now I'm just going to heat set this, so hang in there. Cool down a little bit, because boy, it does get hot. Now I know that the camera probably cannot pick up, because obviously it's clear. It did emboss a little bit, and oh, I see one that didn't heat up, so I have to hit that one again with the heat gun. It did, like I was saying, it did emboss, but it also then colored it with my embossing ink. Okay, you got to really make sure. If it looks still kind of dark, then you know it didn't heat up and melt, and that's what it's doing, is melting. Alright, now, you know, here we go with our Distress inks. By the way, in case you're wondering, I am using my craft mat underneath here to heat on. You do not want to heat your things using your heat tool unless you have a heat mat underneath you, or some type of a heat resistant thing, because if you have a countertop, you're going to melt your countertop, and then your hubby's going to be upset, because it won't repair very nicely. So I'm going to ink this up, and I'm using my Barn Dollar door color. It's really Barn Door, and I call it Barn Dollar. But I finally figured out why, but that's okay. That's another story. Okay, remember, we're going to start off the paper, and we're going to come across. Can you see what that's doing? Oh my gosh, I love this. There you go. Now, do you notice what's happening there? My embossing powder that I melted on there is going to resist my ink. Now, there's also a couple little flicks of blue in there where I didn't get my plate clean, so make sure you do get your plate clean. It makes a difference. Now, okay, I'm going to close that up. And then I just bring in one of my handy dandy little towels and very lightly I'm going to go over and rub off the ink on the embossed areas where it resisted. And there we go. Voila! Is that too stinking cute or what? I mean, it just is fantastic. I love this. You could do any color. Just think, no matter what kind of paper you're using, if you've got the right ink, voila, there you go. Well, I've got one more quick thing I want to show you because it's using the embossing powder again. You're not going to believe it. Let me clear some things off and we'll do one more. Okay, I have to show you this one more technique using dark paper, your distress embossing ink, and perfect pearls. Oh, I just love perfect pearls. Let me show you real quick how that works. Now, I didn't wipe that off because I knew I was going to use this again, but you would want to go wash it off because it's going to be nasty if you don't. And when I'm done doing the video and Steve's doing his magic, I'll run downstairs and clean up my work. Make sure I get that on there real good. Now this time I'm using dark paper. Put it right in the center there. Close her up. Add the shims. Not the ribbon, just the shims. No ribbon, please. There we go. And again, remember, you're going to use that purple arrow. Is going to go in first. Let me bring her back in here. And let's do this again. Move my perfect pearls out of the way. And again, I'm just going to do it a couple times just because I want to make sure I get all that embossing ink on my piece of dark paper. So the exciting thing about this all-in-one Cuttlebug embossing plates and the new little folder here that you get, look at all the stuff you can do. My goodness, we can emboss with these and make any shape, any design we want to. We can do some letterpress work. Oh my goodness, just so much to do. All right, let's lift her off. All right, now I'm not sure. Steve, I'm going to bring this a little close to see if the camera can kind of pick that up. What do you think? Is it looking all right? So there you are, and we want it wet right now. Then you're going to bring in, you guys are going to laugh, the perfect pearl. See, to me, I always thought that this would be the top. Do you know how many times I've dumped these? So help me, you know, I put the word top on there, so I knew this was the top. So I'm going to bring this in. And then I've got one of my handy dandy Claudine Hellmuth brushes because I just like her brushes. I use them for everything. And all I'm going to do is go right over top. Ooh, look at that. Now, if you wanted to, I'm going to get a little bit more over here. If you wanted to, you could even color coordinate, like if you only wanted the stars gold and the, because, you know, there's all different colors of perfect pearls. Is that like too cool? Now, the other really cool thing you can do, there is also a set of the embossing plates with the new all-in-one that are monogram letters. So you could do really awesome monogram invitations, birthday cards. I mean, there's just, the sky's the limit, girls and guys. I'm telling you, the sky's the limit. Well, you know what? This might be a really cool card for the 4th of July because it is our country's birthday after all. Maybe I could do that. I'm going to put a little bit more on that one. Oh my goodness, this is just awesome. I'm going to close that because, you know, I will spill it. Then you're just going to tap her off. And then I clean my brush off just on my little towel. And then I go back through and I try and get some of that extra off there. Let me see if I can do it better with my towel. Let's see. Oh yeah, that works better. Now the thing about perfect pearls is I don't have to set it with anything because my embossing ink is actually my setting medium that's going to hold it on there so it won't rub off. I just don't want all that extra on. I want some of that blue to show through back there. For some reason it didn't want to come up with my brush, but there you are. Oh my goodness. Would you look at that? Can you see that shining on there? I think I'm in love with these Cuttlebug folders. Okay, well, let's see. I think that's everything I can show you tonight. So make sure you stop over there, cropstop.com. Get yourself some of these Cuttlebug all-in-one folders. You want to make sure you get this. If you don't get this, you can't do nothing. Got to have that. There's so many different embossing plates you can get. And make sure to get yourself some of this embossing ink. Oh, there's just so much stuff. Everything I used tonight, make yourself a shopping list and get over to CropStop. Have a good night. Bye.